Hello varlets. This is a rather unexpected video since I didn't think we would be getting the next patch before the end of the month, if I'm honest. But hey, I ain't complaining. This latest patch, patch number 11, brings us some good news. First off, we are getting crossplay introduced between Steam and Microsoft Store. Finally, all of us playing on PC can play together. I expect a small uptick in players now that friends who were once playing apart can now play together. The new condition, Elite Resistance, has been introduced into the game as well. As a reminder, when the Elite Resistance condition is active, fewer but stronger enemies are spawned. This condition also changes special enemy spawns to be more opportunistic and can make hordes more dangerous when they all spawn together. And Claven Barros has also received a little change. They have made it so that the finale of the mission is more challenging with enemies coming from new directions and our usual cover spaces have been moved. Now, on to the really juicy bits of the patch. We have some blessing changes to go through, as well as some weapon tweaks. First off, blessings that stack based on duration of continuous fire like Blaze Away and Roaring Advance have been overhauled. They now stack based on a percentage of the total magazine spent rather than a fixed amount of shots fired. This change essentially makes it so that you'll always be able to reach the 5th stack as long as you have the ammo to do so in your magazine. In addition to this change, some of the blessings have received a small buff or a change to how it functions. I'll flash the changes right here. I'm very interested to see how Roaring Advance works now that it can stack up to 120% movement speed. Next up, we have some weapon tweaks. First off, Recon lasguns have gotten a small damage buff that amounts to about 20% on average across the lower and upper damage values. Secondly, the slab shield is getting a buff. If you have been keeping an eye on the Discord for some time, you know that Catfish has mentioned that the slab shield was supposed to undergo some sort of rework instead of just a numbers buff, which we are getting here. However, seeing as the rework is still being worked on, the devs have decided that a numbers tweak to bring the slab shield into relevance within the meta would be alright for now. The aforementioned rework will be appearing in the future with changes that should make the weapon special more interesting and make tanking for your team more appreciated. Anyway, let's talk about the slab shield buffs. There are 3 main aspects to the slab shield that have been buffed. The first is the push attack. They've made it such that the attack is prioritized to favor headshots while also increasing the finesse damage bonus from 25% to 50%, as well as increasing the damage range of the attack by 50%. Second is our heavy attacks. For this, they've not only increased the base damage values by 50% as well, but also increased the cleave damage of the attack and made it so that damage falloff never goes to 0. Instead, our heavy attacks will always reach a minimum damage floor against all targets hit. Finally, the first 2 of our light attacks are also getting buffed. While the lower damage threshold for the light attacks is getting a small buff of around 6%, the upper damage threshold is also getting a 50% damage buff like our heavy and push attacks. They've also increased the stagger impact versus cleave targets 2 to 4, that means the 3 targets after your first target, by 20%. This basically means enemies that aren't the first thing you hit are going to get knocked around a little more for added crowd control with your light attacks. Finally, like our heavy attacks, our light attacks also have a damage floor that never reaches 0. Overall, these are great changes as far as numbers go. I'll have to play a game or 3 to test out the slab shield and see if a review is in order. We also have one more weapon that is getting a buff, the stub revolver. The revolver is getting its damage falloff threshold against maniac enemies increased, making it more effective at dealing with specials from further distances than before. It's also getting a 25% damage boost across its damage ranges. I'll have to look at its damage profile closer to see if new breakpoints are met with this change. Maybe a revolver review might be coming sooner than expected for those of you who asked. Finally, they've also increased the weak spot multiplier of the weapon from 1.35 to 1.7. Like the slab shield, the number changes are great, but I'll have to play it for myself to reach a more concrete conclusion. Some notable bug fixes before I close this patch notes video out. The bug that prevented us from changing our loadouts during the mission ready screen has apparently been fixed, so yay to that. Also, they've now fixed Slaughterer being able to be activated by kills from grenades or damage over time effects. This just reinforces one of the reasons why Hit Taker is the overall more consistent choice now. If you know, you know. Alright, that is all for this patch notes overview video. For those of you who are wondering where my uploads have been as of late, I have been very busy and distracted at the same time working on the Blessing Overhaul video. It should be ready soon, but the more I work on it, the more it grows into something bigger than expected. I only hope it will be worth the effort that went into assembling it, but I'll guess you have to stay tuned to find out. Thank you all for watching and I will see you in the next one. Varlets.